I do think that shooting, I hope that'll be examined, because
what's happened with the investigation? We don't know anything about this kid.
Well, Piers, I don't know, because you're not from the United States. It's very common for assassins of presidents to have no motive at all.
Extraordinary.
And at the age of 20 to have no social media profile. He never went on the internet.
Nothing.
It's kind of weird.
No record at all.
Yeah, not at all. No cutlery in his own home. Advanced bomb making skills. Operating drones. Bringing rangefinder. Making a pretty great offhand shot at 150 yards under duress. It's just normal in America. I mean, the whole thing is so nuts, actually. The fact that the Secret Service allowed this to happen, which they did.
The guy's on the most. Oh, if I was running the Secret Service for the day, what's the first place you'd look? Oh, it would be the flat roof with a direct line on the stage.
You think? And there was not one agent positioned or assigned to look at that. None. They had no idea.
But why?
Well, because they wanted to kill Trump, obviously. The Biden administration wanted to kill Trump. I mean, there's no doubt.
Do you genuinely think?
Of course, I know that, and I know that by what I saw. In other words, if you leave your child inside a locked car on a hot day and go into a casino and spend 3 hours gambling and the kid suffocates, I can say, Piers, you killed your child. And you say, well, I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter. You didn't care enough about your child that you went back and rescued him from suffocation. It's demonstrable. Your intent can be divined from your actions. If you allow a roof 40 yards away to remain unsurveilled, a guy with a rangefinder and a drone to come into your area while the presidential candidate is speaking, you don't care about saving the life of that man.
I actually thought what happened at the golf course a few weeks later was even worse in this sense. This is a few weeks after he's actually been shot.
Yes.
He's playing at his own golf course where he regularly plays at weekends when he's in Florida. And he was 5 minutes away of walking up to a green where if one Secret Service agent who happened to walk ahead had not seen the barrel of a rifle poking out of a bush, that guy had a loaded AK-47, he had body armor, he was ready to go. Trump would be dead. And that would have been, I think, the biggest scandal ever, because that was just weeks after he'd already survived an assassination. But no one makes much of a fuss about that either.
How many members of Congress did that guy meet with? A lot. He was in Ukraine, which is controlled by the U.S. intel services. I mean, that's just a fact. He was in Ukraine, which is a kind of wellspring of lunacy. Sorry, I know you support it, but it's done more to destabilize the West than anything that's happened in my lifetime. And the amount of evil that has emanated from that country, the amount of assassinations that have come from Ukraine, I happen to know, is very high. And so this guy is in Ukraine and having contact. Well, how many members of Congress did he meet with and what do they talk about? This is an assassin. No, we don't know. So, and we don't know.
Again, the media, fascinating, the mainstream media, when was the last big piece you read about either assassination? And yet if that had been an attempt on Obama, on Biden, on Harris, on anyone, on the Democrat side, they wouldn't stop talking about it.
Because everybody knows what this is. These are not lone gunmen any more than, Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman. The lone gunman killed by a lone gunman 2 days later. Okay now. I mean, it's just it's so horrifying that clearly both of these guys were agents of the permanent government in Washington or globally. And there's like no honest person who could deny that. It's just so obvious. And I think that people don't want to wrestle with that, because it's incredibly disturbing. And I think it's also possible that people in the Trump administration don't want to deal with it. I mean, they're still guarded by the Secret Service.
Yeah.
And whatever elements tried to murder Trump are still in the positions they occupied.
I mean, I watched him the other day walking through a Las Vegas casino, and everyone was like, isn't that great? And I was like, wow, really? They're letting the president walk through an open casino with endless amounts of people milling around. I think you can carry guns in Vegas, I think, can you? It seemed to me a very high-risk environment to put a guy who literally just survived 2 assassination attempts.
Is it 2? I mean,
well, there are more, I think, aren't there?
I mean,
we don't know about. I don't think that Trump doesn't want people to know about
exactly.
probably the reality.
I think what you're saying is true. So, I think it's even more extraordinary than you're saying, actually, or than we really know.
Do you worry about him staying alive, literally?
No. Because I think that if you're going to lead, you have to be willing to risk your life. I mean, obviously, I mean, of course, I love Trump personally, so it's like, no, I mean, I can't imagine a few things worse than Trump being harmed. And so I don't want to be cavalier about that, but I also think as a factual matter, you cannot lead anything, including your own family, unless you're willing to lay down your life for it. I've always thought that. I mean, that is what it is to be a leader. I'm putting other people before myself. It doesn't mean that you take senseless risks, of course, but it does mean that you have a measure of physical courage, and Trump is displaying that a lot, and I think it's essential. I think it's absolutely essential, and you'll hear people say, well, never take any risk. No, no, no. You want to lead, you have to. That's what the job is taking risks.
Funny enough, I talked to him a week after he was shot, and I said, it takes a lot. I said, not just to get up when you did, but a week later you'll be back on you just finished another rally. And I said, did you not have any second thoughts about getting on a stage with 20,000 more strangers a week after you were shot? And he said an interesting thing, a very rare moment of kind of slight vulnerability that he was admitting. He said, I knew if I didn't get back out quickly, I may never get back out.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really honest thing.
It wasn't a week, it was 2 days.
Yeah.
Because he was shot on a Saturday, and the Republican convention started Mondays.
Right.
I'm looking at my producer. That's good. Am I remembering this right?
The Saturday afterwards was when he did the first rally afterwards. Where he was
but I mean,
outside.
he was in the middle of, a stadium
Yeah.
in Milwaukee. I was sitting next to him, and I talked to him that night. I mean, what struck me the most was his attitude the night he was shot. I talked to him late night Saturday night about something else, and I said, well, that's kind of, are you okay? Yeah, I'm great, I'm great. Didn't want to talk about himself at all. And the first thing he said and went on about it was how brave the people in the crowd were. And I thought, he's often been called, well, he's always called a narcissist, but here in his moment of crisis, he's directing attention to other people. I thought that was so, because as you said, you don't really know a man until there's a lot of pressure.
Do you think he's changed? I mean, I've spoken to him a few times, not as much as you will have done, but I do detect that two things have changed him as a man. One, getting a second chance at life, literally, where half an inch and he's dead, and the other, getting another go at the presidency, which was, whatever people want to say, it was completely derailed by the pandemic. And I think that without that pandemic, he'd have been re-elected very comfortably. And so he had a chance, a sort of do-over at two things, professional and personal.
Yes.
And I do sense with him, both privately but also what I'm seeing in public, a slightly changed guy. Do you feel that?
Oh, I strongly feel that. I strongly feel, on many levels. I've noticed it. I mean, I was at the inauguration, and right near him when he gave that inaugural, I've never seen him read. He's an amazing conversationalist, a wonderfully entertaining host in person, and he's a great extemporaneous speaker. But he's never been a great teleprompter reader. He didn't miss, as a teleprompter reader, I notice he didn't miss a single word in that inaugural. He was just so calm. Stylistic, but I think it speaks to something
and
deeper.
disciplined.
And disciplined.
And really focused, right?
But the pitfall, look, I mean, Trump has full command of the U.S. government to the extent anybody ever does, because it's so huge. And more power in his first week of the presidency than any president in my lifetime, more than Reagan.